Desperation, a feeling that not only hurts the one who holds them, but the people around them as well. All rationality just gets thrown out the window, turning fear into recklessness and hope into obsession. Some say there's nothing more dangerous than a desperate soul, because it will do absolutely anything to escape.
Hi, I'm Krishi.
And I'm Anika. Together, we're diving deep into some of the most unsettling crimes that have shaken India to its core.
Joseph, a kind-hearted, simple man who was the owner of a stationery shop in the Ernakulam district of Aluva. He belonged to a Christian community and lived with his parents along with his wife and children.
His sister Mary, frequently referred to as Baby, was married to Augustine of the Manjooran house who ran a hardware shop in Aluva. They had two children, namely Divyamol and Jasmine, who were both receiving their basic education. On the 6th of January, Mary had gone home to take her father to the hospital as he was sick, and told Joseph that she would come the next day at around 9:30 a.m. to stay with them, because his wife was going to her own home.
Joseph had another sister, Lizzie, who was with him at home when his wife had left on Saturday morning. Now, since Lizzie was going to her home as well, Mary was eager to visit Joseph and stay with him. However, it was now 10 a.m. and there was still no sign of Mary.
Naturally, Joseph called her house, and though the phone was ringing, there was nobody answering from their end. At around 2 p.m., Joseph began to grow worrisome and calls Jose, who was his older cousin brother as well as Mary's neighbor. He requested them to ask around as there was still no response from Mary's side.
Jose had sent his nephew to Mary's residence, and it was found that the house was not only locked and empty, but their vehicle was also nowhere to be found. Joseph, along with everyone else, assumed that she went for a function that was connected to Krishtu Jayanti 2000, which is where she wanted to participate. So they waited till 8 p.m.
Sometime later, Jose called Joseph after being requested by him to make another inquiry, and informed him that both his sister and brother-in-law were not there. At around 10 p.m., Joseph and his brother-in-law, Sunny, had gone back to the house to figure out what was going on.
The vehicle was spotted in the courtyard, and the light in the veranda was switched off, with the usual newspaper and milk lying right outside. He then moved towards the sit-out, and upon moving the curtains, he discovered that one of the doors was just left open. He lit his torch to find out what was happening inside, and immediately saw Jasmine's legs as he was lying on the floor with bloodstains next to his body. Lying on her chest down, he found Divyamol's legs in the adjacent room, and then he found his sister.
Mary was found in a sitting position with her head down next to Augustine, who was lying motionless on his back. When Joseph called out, there was no response, only a silence that confirmed the unthinkable. The entire family was dead.
Joseph and Sunny ran out of the house immediately and informed Jose, who then took everyone to the police station. Apart from the family of 4, that household contained Augustine's sister Kochurani as well as their mother Rahel. These two were not seen to be anywhere. Their whereabouts and what happened to them was completely unknown.
When trying to figure out who would do something like this, not many people popped up in Joseph's mind. His brother-in-law had no financial liabilities. Augustine was waiting for a decision to be made in the near future regarding a new house he was constructing. The maximum Joseph could think of was that Augustine and his elder brothers were having a dispute regarding their property. Apart from this, he was not aware of any other enemies.
Now that we've covered the horrific incident, let's start from the beginning. Antony Manjooran, who was not only a distant relative of Augustine, but was also close enough to him that he was considered to be a family friend.
He would often visit the Manjooran house to meet with the entire family and spend time with them. However, The last time he went to visit them, the intention may not have been nearly as innocent. Antony was recently offered a new job that required him to migrate to Saudi Arabia, for which he would need a visa. He eventually managed to arrange it and acquired it on the 23rd of December, but would have to pay the agent before the 10th of January, which he couldn't due to severe financial constraints.
The most he could acquire by himself on such short notice was 25,000 rupees, which was enough for just the initial payment. He continued making attempts to increase this amount, but failed. Being under this financial and economic stress, he decided to go to the Manjooran house and ask for help. The night he visited them, he wished to speak with Coach Rani privately, so he waited for the rest of the family to leave, as they were planning on going to a movie.
Rani had initially promised Antony the money, but for reasons that are unclear to us, she later refused to give it to him. The desperation and anxiety taking control over Antony led him to commit a crime that would haunt Kerala for the next 20 years.
Antony, overcome by rage, brutally hacked Rani and killed her. He also killed her mother Rahel for being a witness to the murder. Given that he was the only other person present in the house before everyone else left, he realized that he would be the first suspect, so he patiently waited for the remaining 4 members to return.
Using a knife, an axe, a chopper, and a double knife, he slaughtered the rest of the family in cold blood. As the clock struck midnight, Antony managed to turn the Manjooran house that was full of life into a graveyard. These murders were planned and executed with precision, assuring that there was no hint of life left in them before leaving the crime scene.
After committing this atrocious act, he stole the gold ornaments that were worn by the family members along with a large amount of cash. Till the 5th of January, Antony only had 35,000 rupees left with him. But now, all of a sudden, he had a surplus amount of money not only to pay off for his visa, but also to pay his debts, ticket fare, and multiple other expenses as well.
On January 7th, 2 gentlemen, Yohanan and Ramachandran Nair, were paid 35,000 rupees by Antony, despite neither of them having demanded the repayment, which shows Antony's intent to liquidate his debt and to get rid of all the ill-gotten money before his departure to the Gulf.
During his confession, he claims that Augustine had in fact lent him 35,000 rupees at 8 p.m. on the 6th of January when the crime took place. However, there is no evidence that proves that he was in Augustine's shop and had been given the said amount ever. Even Antony's wife Jama claimed that there was no moment where she had been told by her husband that he had received an amount of 35,000 rupees.
After piecing together the evidence and uncovering that the murderer of the Manjooran house was none other than Antony himself, the police launched a relentless pursuit determined to bring him to justice. When finding out that Antony had already fled to Saudi Arabia, the police applied to the government to go there and investigate the case. However, due to some technical issues, the chase was delayed, causing them to take alternative measures.
With no extradition treaty between India and Saudi Arabia, bringing Antony back to India legally was not easy. The police then came up with a strategic plan. They set up a mini telephone exchange at a shopping complex in Aluva, specifically for this case. Jama, Antony's wife, was told to speak with him through and was only allowed to say the sentences that the police wrote for her.
To prevent Jama from speaking to Antony on any other phone, they put her under surveillance and disconnected all the phones that were near Jama's house. Later, CIB Sasidharan and DYSP Abraham Cherry went to Mumbai to meet with the owner of Cosmos Travel, Arun Memon, who was the one who took Antony to Saudi Arabia in the first place.
The police ordered Memon to send a message to Antony's sponsor in Dammam, saying that his wife is requesting for him to be brought back and that she is willing to pay any cost. The Saudi sponsor then started the preparation for transporting Antony, and eventually the police caught him at the transit lounge in Sahar Airport and flew him to the Karipur Airport as soon as possible.
After a grueling week of interrogation by senior police officers, Antony was released on bail on January 25, 2002, exactly a year after the crime was committed. Throughout the questioning, he refused to cooperate, creating multiple lies. Yet, despite his deceit, he walked a free man. However, on the 9th of October 2002, Antony finally broke, confessing to it all.
The police already found his fingerprints in the house, his hair on the deceased bodies, as well as having the knowledge that he was not in his home at the time of the incident. With this evidence against him combined with the confession, the police now had enough to get Antony arrested. The CBI Special Court started the testimony on October 18th, where they found Antony guilty.
He was then sentenced to death on the 2nd of February 2005. A year later, on the 18th of September, the High Court upheld the sentence as well as the Supreme Court. But after 13 years in solitary confinement, still having his death sentence, a bench of Supreme Court judges decided to change it into life imprisonment in 2018, taking his socioeconomic background and the absence of a criminal history into consideration.
Since then, Antony had made multiple attempts at getting parole, but was unsuccessful due to the reports filed by the Aluva police, which were against his favor. In June 2022, the government granted 30 days parole to 23 people who were previously denied it, Antony being one of them.
Though Antony's death sentence was later commuted, the scars left by his actions will forever haunt the Manjooran family and the community of Aluva. It's a stark reminder that evil can often hide behind the most familiar faces, and that justice, no matter how delayed, will eventually find its way.
Until then, remember that true crime
Is a real thing.
So we'll meet you soon with another Chaat, Chutney and Crime original.
Where's the thing? You forgot it.
Again, yeah.